As it was mentioned earlier, once you're successful, we try to give back. So we ask people to come and give back. We have a wonderful story tonight from Pam Flynn. Pam, come on up. She's going to talk to us about her property here in San Antonio. And we're going to have a great case study tonight. Pam, thank you for giving back. I really do appreciate it. And so which microphone would you like, left or right?
Just give me one more. Actually, let me put this down.
Sure. And then this one that works. I heard that.
Oh, we have one here now.
Yeah. So now, so
Right
we can
here
look up
also.
here and we'll be able to see wherever you would like to stand, ma'am.
Oh, no, this is good. Thank you,
That's
Robert.
a perfect spot.
As long as you're in the camera of the online people here, so just wave to them every now and then.
we are. We're good.
Okay. Hey, so thanks, everybody. I want to present my property, South Cross Villas, today. Do I have any investors in the audience? I see a couple.
Several hands in the
Got a
room.
whole bunch here.
Yeah.
That's cool. So South Cross Villas is an 85-unit apartment complex, and we have 40 investors, including myself, to buy it. And well, it's a great property. I want to present it to you tonight.
But before you do, tell us about Pam Flynn.
Pam Flynn, yes. Well,
The
that's
legend.
me. That's me. I'm holding up a train. That's how legendary
Super
I
strong.
am.
But before lifestyle, she could never hold up that train.
Yeah, I
So,
could.
There you go.
So I started off as an environmental engineer about 18 years ago. I was in New York and I got laid off. So I got another job in Texas and moved to Texas. But when you get laid off and all of a sudden you realize, wow, my fate is not in my hands. It's some bottom line somewhere that I didn't make the cut and I get laid off and I got no money, right? So you don't want that to happen again. So when I got to Texas, I started buying single family houses. And I didn't have lifestyles back then. I just did it on my own. And, I learned the hard way, but I did learn, and it turned out to be a really good thing. And then I wound up finding lifestyles 12 houses later. And they taught me how to step it up to the next level, which was multifamily. I do wish I'd met them on maybe house number 1 or house number 2.
Oh, certainly.
Absolutely.
I said that to Dell, too, when I joined after he taught the 2-day. I was like, man, Dell, where have you been my whole life? Because I had a couple single family I was kind of messing up, or I was doing all right, but it wasn't the lifestyle's way.
Yeah.
And he's like, Brian, for the past 20 years, I've been paying for radio 2 hours in several major markets in America, casting the rod, man. Where have you been my whole life? I've been paying to reach you, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, it's funny. I wish I did it sooner also. I listened to the radio show for 7 years before I came to a
That's
case study.
unacceptable.
I
That is
know.
totally unacceptable.
So you're that guy Dale keeps talking about.
He talks, yes, I'm usually the example.
So I joined Lifestyles in 2000.
Bad example.
I joined Lifestyles in 2016 and never looked back. I became a real estate professional in 2017, July 21st, 2017 to be exact. I haven't worked for anybody else since. It was really awesome. Yeah, that's me. That's me in a nutshell. So.
And then you talked a little bit about why you joined Lifestyles?
Yeah, well, as I already mentioned, the W-2 thing, so I got laid off in New York, and I knew it was going to happen again because of the kind of industry that I was in, and I was going to be a fool if I wasn't ready for it the second time around, so I got ready, so yeah. Also, my dad died when he was 59 years old, and he never got to enjoy all of the retirement that everybody keeps talking about,
Oh,
Work until you're 65 and then retire, get your 401k. He never got to do that. And I don't know if that was going to happen to me or not, but I wasn't going to let someone else be the boss of that when it's possible for me to have that in my own control, and Lifestyles has allowed me to do that. Also, those 12 houses, I was a real estate junkie. I just love real estate. And now I get to talk to like 100 of my friends who are real estate junkies as well. So.
Very cool. So then a little bit about the property. You said it was 85. Go ahead and tell us just a little bit of stats on it.
So 85 units, built in 1982, purchased June 2021. So June 2021, it wasn't pandemic, but it is at the end of the pandemic when kind of the collateral pandemic damage was starting to come around. So we did have some fun events that we didn't anticipate, which I'll get into. The purchase price was $4.95 million, which is only $58,000 a door, which is cheap.
that's great.
Cheap. So back then, it was the beginning of the real estate boom when everything was just, prices were just going up and up and up and up. And we found this deal, and it was on Realtor.com, which is not where multifamily belongs, right?
Yeah.
So something's wrong if there's an 85 unit on Realtor.com. And I'd actually had a little experience with this property 2 years earlier because I toured it with another member. But back then, it was overpriced. Well, fast forward 2 years, it's on Realtor.com. The price hasn't gone up at all, and woohoo, right? I got it. So
Pam, this weekend I'll tell you the story of how I found 72 units built in 1980 on Realtor.com
Right.
for $15,000 a door.
Oh, wow.
Oh, very
What year was that?
2017.
Love to have that one.
So it's the perfect.
It was adequate.
It's the perfect lifestyles model, right? So it's a property that someone else owned. They had third-party management who ran it into the ground and put them in a bad way. Now they were trying to get rid of it. So yay. So like I said, 4.95 million. Cash out of pocket was
great.
2.17 million, of
Okay,
which
I've got to ask a question now. So 2.17 million. So you just pulled that out of your back pocket there?
Stroked a check.
Yeah, just wrote that yourself, did you?
yeah.
Ah, yeah,
No,
sure
I
you
had
did.
40 investors. 40 investors, and a whole bunch of them are in this room right now.
You saw a lot of hands. So what was the lowest amount that you were able to take for an investment like that? What could somebody get in on?
I think we did one or two $25,000 investments, and we went as high as 100,000 in this particular case.
And I guess all of your investors weren't here. There weren't 40 hands, but was everybody from here in San Antonio, or how does that work?
No, they're from all over the United States, including Hawaii.
You got a Hawaii member?
I sure
that's
do.
awesome.
I need to go visit them and write it off.
Yes,
right?
you should. Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, keep on.
Okay, so 2.17 million cash out of pocket, of which 750,000 was our rental budget, which is a pretty big rental budget. I'd like to point out that this property was a deep value play, and as soon as we bought it, then we realized it really wasn't a deep value play. It was a deep value play, and that's always how it goes. Ask anybody who has bought one. So, yeah. Next.
Awesome. So then on the, this is just like a quick snapshot of where expenses are as of this previous month here. So your income's about 70K, your expenses about 33. We don't have any cash flow yet because she's just on the back end of the final rehab there. So she hadn't pushed out any distributions yet. But here's something that's really cool. So you propped out, how much did you buy it for? 4 point what? 4.95. And so as it's valued currently, with the improvement she's made just as of right now, it's already up to $6.2 million. So that's an awesome job already. With a lot of hard work, I know you did. What, you want to go back?
There are more numbers later.
Yeah, we got
No,
more
keep going.
numbers, man.
Okay,
Heck
sorry,
yeah,
keep
I'm an
going.
engineer too. We're
But
both engineers. up here.
go back one.
How long? What's my time on
Just
this
one slide.
One slide, how long? How much?
1 second.
1 sec. Oh, time's up.
Okay, so income 70, expenses 33. You're running your expenses about 47% of your income, right? Traditionally in multifamily, expenses are what they are. They're 50 to 51% or 47% of the income. Well, I'll teach you all about that, all of the income and all of the expenses in multifamily. I'll teach you this weekend also. So good job.
So this is May income, May as in last month. So we just turned this property around. It was a very, very heavy lift. And from day one to now, we had a lot of trials and tribulations. So we're about a year behind, but we do plan on paying distributions next quarter for my investors. This is breaking news, right? We're very excited.
Happy.
Very excited.
Everybody likes cash flow.
Okay,
So let's talk a little bit about what you did. We're going to see
Right.
some cool pictures here of the hard
Yeah.
work you put in.
pea soup, right? So that's the before picture on the left, and it's really shocking. So you can see the pool. It's got some green stuff in it, and it didn't smell very good. So the pool had not had any water in it for 3 years, and that's what it looked like. So they put water in it every once in a while, and it all went away because they had a big giant leak. They weren't fixing air conditioners, and you can see on the right-hand side all the improvements we made. We've completely redone the pool.
Brand new mailbox?
Brand new mailboxes, because
Man.
those old aluminum mailboxes, everybody's mail kept getting stole, so
That's
we
one of
just
the
bought
best
those.
things tenants love. New mailboxes. Because the old mailboxes, it'll rain and their mail will get wet, and the locks don't work, and people will steal their mail. I've had more compliments from tenants on mailboxes than almost anything.
Well, it's really nice to not to have to explain why their mail got stolen anymore. So from our perspective, So this is just a before and after of one of our buildings. It's not quite before because we've already rebuilt the balcony. We rebuilt 10
Wow.
balconies on all 10 buildings. The flashing's already been redone. The price of lumber went up 5 times, so it became cheaper to rebuild these balconies with hardy plank rather than lumber.
Excellent.
We could do that. And we put in posts. The balconies themselves are built with cantilever construction so that you shouldn't need posts, but this is 1980s construction and it was a little bit tired, so just in case all the buildings got posts. And isn't it amazing what a coat of paint and some
beautiful.
solar screens can do?
Yeah, it's beautiful. Speaking of beautiful, what do we got
Oh,
here?
wow.
So this is one of our apartments. So there are 85 units, and we have renovated 62 of them already, and we have 3 in progress. So we're going to be just 20 left, which I'm hoping will be meat on the bone someday for somebody else, but probably we'll wind up renovating them as well. This particular apartment was a little bit infamous. This is 203 because when we first took over the property, there was a squatter in there who'd already been living for months without paying rent and without any electricity. So one of the trials and tribulations of the pandemic was that it was very hard to get rid of this person. So we didn't get rid of them until August, and they lived in there all that time without
Living off the
any
grid.
electricity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So, and then they would go to the dumpster and they would steal like pieces of furniture and bring them in, and they were just piled. You couldn't even sit on them. It was just, it was horrific. So we got rid of that person finally, and we've redone the unit, much like we're redoing all of our units, and they're very beautiful now.
That is beautiful.
Awesome. Speaking of beautiful, we're going to get to a couple slides here that are very beautiful as well. So just talking about the numbers here, and Master Chief was going to go over this in great detail in the 2 days. It's too much for the new guys to be able to download all this. But here we go. So you're going to look at her income. So, you know, she said that it was a deep value play. You can see the income has increased significantly over year 1, and we're just finishing up with year 2. Yes, sir.
And so there's a few type of deals we do in multifamily. One is a yield play. You buy the property for the cash flow yield, right? It's in great condition. It pays you 10%. You're loving life. Doesn't take a lot of work. On the other end of the spectrum is the value play. You buy it to significantly increase the value of the property. You don't get any yield, cash flow usually, right? Because you're taking the occupancy down, you're kicking people out, you're rehabbing. And after a year or two, though, the significant increase in value, it's a value play. Hers is like a deep value play, right, which is even better. But I'll go over those on the 2-day also. So
Perfect.
we were throwing some words around. I want to throw some clarification out there.
Yep, and you can see the definition of value in these numbers here. So the income has obviously come up. Her expenses have actually come down for year 2 because of employee, basically optimizing your work staff and whatnot.
New ACs, insulation. I mean, yes.
And then you can see the NOI. So NOI is net income. So the difference between single family and multifamily is our ability to have forced appreciation. NOI, net operating income, is how a property is valued. And Master Chief is going to give you a good class on that this weekend as well. And so
Nice.
you can notice, as we were saying, this is a value play, so don't expect to have cash flow for a couple of years, and that's exactly what we have. And then we're looking at a little bit of cash flow here year 3, but the magic happens on the next slide. All right. Not that slide. Go. There you go. All right. So now, remember I told you, NOI, that's how the property is valued, right? So you can see from on the purchase price, not a lot of NOI on that one. Pretty low. Yeah, pretty low. Not a lot of value there. But then year 1, she's starting to just basically get her renovations going. Year 2, she's completing most of those renovations, got 20 left out of 85. Mm-hmm. And you can see that NOI is popping up, and you see at the second line there is what the value of the property is based off of that NOI and a cap rate. Cap rate's something that Master Chief is going to explain to you here today. It's very important. And then if we project out just marginal increases in income and steady expenses, for year 3 is what it would be projected at. So you can see we've taken that property value up to $8.4 million. All right.
What
so
cap rate was that?
6. That's a
Oh,
6.
nice.
I know. Yeah, conservative. That's right. That's the way we do
People are
it.
always sandbagging.
No.
An 82 property.
Yep. 6% cap is where we put it.
So
We didn't want the numbers to look too good, you know.
And we're throwing this around. Cap is capitalization rate. It's basically the expected return on a real estate investment you'd expect to make as if you're buying it for all cash. I'll cover it for about an hour this weekend, okay? It's how we determine value. You essentially just take the income, divide it by a market cap rate. They use 6%, so you divide the NOI by 0.06, 6% in a decimal format, and that establishes a value of $8 million.
8.4 million, sir.
Craziness.
8.4. Don't forget the 0.4.
8.383, yes.
383, there you go. So now here's what it would mean to an investor, right? So if Pam decides that with her partner she wants to sell it in the year 3.
Or if they have a partnership vote.
Yep.
Let's refi or sell, put it up to a vote.
And so they would be able to achieve $8.4 million, sir. And then the first thing you got to do is got to pay the loan, the bank back, right? So you take out the bank debt, $3.5 million, and then everybody that put money in gets every dollar of that money back. So you got to take out that $2.7 million that Pam put in with her back pocket and some friends, and then you add it back in the cash distribution that she's going to be looking at here for this next year. So you got a total equity of $2.8 million, which would be a 132% rate of return over your original investment. So I think that deserves a round of applause.
It does. And back up.
Too fast for me.
So 132% ROI. Yeah. So what's that saying? Don't talk to me about the return on my money until you talk to me about the return of my money, right? So she could give all of her partners their capital back. Awesome. John Price says, you always got to protect the seed corn, right? You don't eat the seed corn, you plant it again, correct? And you eat the fruit from that. 132% in 3 years is 43% return annually.
Not bad. Yeah, that's a little better than that 4% you were talking about.
Who's making
right?
43% on your money a year? Raise your hand. Pam, raise your hand.
I am, because
Pam, raise your hand.
I'm one of her investors, so yeah.
Great job, seriously.
good job.
That's phenomenal. That's a great deal. Congratulations. It is. It's good.
Thank you. Thank you.
So Pam, in order to get that, obviously a lot of hard work, but tell us, how did you increase that NOI?
We hired the right team and we pay them well. And so I'll tell you a story about that. So one of the trials and tribulations we had was that there was a huge labor shortage. And I can remember quite a few days where it was just me and the operations manager. There were no other employees on site. That's my operations manager right there. Hi, Mark. So, and then we would have interviews, like we would have 10 interviews scheduled a day, and not a one would show up. And this happened again and again and again and again. So when we finally got someone that would show up and they were worth hiring and they weren't drug addicts, then yeah, we treated them good. We treated them really, really good. You have no idea.
Good combination, yeah.
And also though, and at Lifestyles Unlimited, in the Preferred Investor Group, we celebrate the successes. We're a like-minded community of real estate investors. We participate in the abundance mentality. As a lead investor, you had monthly meetings with other lead investors, correct? Where you talk about best practices going on in the market. If one of you is going through a growing pain or looking for somebody, hey, this is a great idea. We share knowledge. It's called the abundance mentality. It makes all of us richer. Copy?
And we actually share a lot more than that because we have one lead maintenance, and every once in a while the guy wants to go on vacation, right? Well, so there's another property down the road that's very similar, and it's owned by a Lifestyles member, so we cover each other's maintenance vacations. So there's a lot of benefit to sharing your information with like minds. It's pretty awesome, actually. So next, we have a nice community, and we keep it that way, and we do so with very well-developed community policies, aka rules, right? So we were able to buy this horrific dump at 60-some-odd% occupancy, right? Because it was full of people that nobody else wanted to live next to. So we don't want these people moving in that no one else wants to live next to because it kills our occupancy. So they have to fit a certain criteria. The same criteria gets applied to everybody. They can't be noisy. They can't be rude. They can't have 1,000 cars in the parking lot. They can't have pit bulls, yada, 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 right? On it goes. So we really enforce that so that nice people will want to live there.
So you're building the community up.
We are building the community up.
You changed that community. Yeah.
Well, we did, and we renovated everything too. So when we first took over, we didn't want to rent apartments. We kept having people come and saying, "Hey, you got anything to rent?" And we were like, "No, because this place is so ugly. If you want to live here, we don't want you."
So
And that was for probably the first 4 or 5 months until we had something that we were a little more proud of. So then we started getting some occupancy. And by the way, we just cracked 90%.
nice.
Excellent.
Very nice.
Big-
Very
Pam,
nice.
Big achievement.
So there was that unit that someone
203.
was living in.
203?
What was the rental rate on that unit? What was the market rate when you took over the property?
When we took over the property, it was right around $600, and now it rents for $815.
Okay. And so to live in these units, you're going to have to qualify with an income 3 times, right? Or
We do
2.5?
2.5 times.
Okay. So, damn it. I'm going to do easy math.
Yeah.
Okay. It was 650?
600.
600.
Yeah.
So 6 times 3, they have to make 1,800 a year, a month. It's now 900? 850?
815. The math is not
9
easy.
times 3 is 27. So you either have to, at the beginning to live there, you had to make $1,800 a month, monthly.
Yeah.
Under her operation, you have to make about $2,500, $2,700 a month. Now, the guy that makes $1,800 a month does not drink the same kind of beer the guy that makes $3,000 a month. You understand that? So also over the 2 years, as tenants lease turns, right, every 12 months, you've increased the the quality of the resident, I guess. Correct?
We have.
Yes. Good job.
So would you go from like old Milwaukee's Best to maybe a Corona or something? Is that what we're talking about here?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Is it old Milwaukee's Best or Corona? Is that kind of
yeah.
what we did there?
Well, Colt 45, you know.
You can tell a lot from the cars in the parking lot.
Yes.
So when we started off with cars that people didn't even own, right? Because if they got stolen, they got dropped off. Well, now we have nice cars in the parking lot.
It was an auto salvage amenity in the parking lot.
And lastly, what we did to increase NOI was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
It's a hard work.
It was not easy.
You put a ton into that. You did a great job. A lot of effort. Yeah. So what's your quote? This is your quote? This is Pam Flynn's quote?
I'm the captain now.
Aye, aye, Captain.
Well, in the Army, I was a captain, so now I'm kind of still a captain because nobody's the boss of me, and I really like that.
Yeah, great. Then tell us a little bit about who's on your team.
Well, you, Robert.
Yeah, I'm here. I answered the phone. Is Doug still here? Doug was here earlier.
He was here.
Oh, that's a shame. Doug used to be my mentor also, but he's since retired. So.
Doug was also my mentor before I was a mentor. It's awesome. There you go.
Oh, well, the other person on my team is Teresa Harrell, and she's not here either. She's operations consultant, and in fact, I just called her up this morning. So
So
hasn't
they
called
answer
me
the
back
phone?
yet, but
So
she
there's
will.
real humans that answer the phone? It's not like a robo-human?
she did not answer the phone.
Oh, she
But she has helped me out with all of my properties, and I know that she will call me back tomorrow.
Excellent.
All right, last slide here, and
But
then we'll
you
go to
forgot
questions.
about the last one.
What?
Her investor partners are on her team.
Well, I thought she said me already. Oh, yeah, the investor partner. I'm an investor partner, too.
My passive investors. And
Raise your hand again if you're a passive investor. Look at all these hands in the room. With in this deal specifically. Yeah.
Excellent.
Raise your hand if you're just a passive investor in any deal. Everybody
So
raise
also,
your hand.
Also, who would like to go out, open carry while you're collecting rent, kicking people out, having the police come to the property, because when you kick them off, they'll move back in overnight, so you have to have a police guard the exit, right? Manage this rehab, construction, demolition war zone.
That's a good point.
Who would like to do that? Who would like to pay Pamela to do it? Who wants to pay Pamela to do it? All right.
I'm a combat veteran, and I saw more action on this property than I did in Afghanistan.
All right, Pam. So what's next? Tell us a little about short-term, long-term goals, and then we're going to get some questions.
Well, I'd like to focus a little more on this property because we just crossed the line, right? So we have a T1 because those really fancy numbers you saw were from May. So we have June is going to be another good month, and we just need to keep it rolling. And I know that we can do that, and it takes more blood, sweat, and tears. And then I want to buy another property.
Excellent.
Awesome. continue to grow the
addicting.
portfolio.
It's
Yeah,
addicting.
for sure. So, before we go to the big round of applause you're going to get, how about any questions? Any questions? Yes, ma'am.
Can you tell me what return your investors that made their passive investment with you will make?
Yeah, let's go back and look at it.
Put that on the slide.
Oh yeah, let me show you because it's a good slide. There you go. So then if you put $100,000 into the deal, you would get your $100,000 back plus another $100,000 back plus another 32,000.
Times. What's your override? 80, 20? What's your override?
Oh, from a passive standpoint.
Okay,
yeah.
so 132 times 0.8. They'd get their 100,000 back and then about $106,000. Because they're going to pay her 20% of the profit,
Yeah,
not
for,
of the
for the
original
blood,
investment.
sweat, and tears, right?
But
Who's okay with that? Who's okay with paying her to do it?
Absolutely.
All right.
But selling it isn't our only option. So we have a
Yeah.
kind of loan. You know, there's a whole other facet to this story. It's the loan, right? So I couldn't get an agency loan on this property because it was in such bad shape. So I got a recourse loan.
Bridge financing.
No,
No,
it's a bank loan.
no.
She went bank.
It's a bank loan. Yeah, I didn't want to do bridge because
Okay.
it was too risky, and
Okay.
thank God I didn't, right?
Yeah.
So it's a recourse loan, and it actually comes due next year. So we're all just waiting to see what the market's going to do because it's all over the place right now. But we might have some very good refinance opportunities where we can get some money from the bank, pay back the old loan, and cover everybody's initial investment to some extent, and still own the property and still cash flow, maybe.
Who would like to own a property you have zero in because the lead gave you back all your money? Awesome.
Who didn't raise their hand?
No. Hey, if you didn't raise your hand, you can go home. You don't need to come to the 2-day, right? This is about owning real estate. Several more questions. Go ahead, Debbie.
So Pam, I know you've been doing this for a while.
And repeat the question.
Back to that very first property that you had. So the numbers are what intimidates me. And tell me how much your mentors helped you with like your projections.
So the question is, going back to your first property or going?
Which you didn't know anything.
So whenever you didn't know anything,
Multifamily.
First deal.
your first multifamily property, is the question, how much support did you get? Or
Yes, particularly for your projections and putting all those numbers together.
so for your underwriting, did you get support for your underwriting on your first property?
So my first property was a 12 unit, and I did it when I was still working. And I think, I can't remember how much I bought it for, but it was something very small amount, and it was less than $1 million. And I was like, oh my God, I couldn't get my brain around how much it cost, right? So I went from, and it had like a $500,000 loan, which is also nothing. And now, we've graduated to bigger numbers. So that's what happens with your first property. You have to get your brain around that. And then the mentors, they help you put together all your numbers before you buy it. Doug Crummell was my mentor back then, and actually met him for breakfast in New Braunfels, and that wasn't our first meeting.
Was it at that taco shop?
No.
Oh, I met him at the
No,
taco
it was
shop.
a
It
nice
great
breakfast.
I was when I was a multifamily mentor about 4 or 5 years ago. I was in Hawaii for a Navy thing, and I was a national mentor. And so a guy calls me up. That was a Hawaii zip area code. So I'm like, hey, hello. Hey, Brian, I need help mentoring on this deal. Do you have some time? I was like, well, I'm kind of doing some Navy stuff. I was like, where you at? He was like, well, I'm here at Pearl Harbor. I was like, well, hell, I'm at Pearl Harbor. I was like, let's go to McDonald's for lunch. So at lunch at McDonald's, I did the first in-person Hawaii
Did you buy a big spender?
consult. Yeah, I did. I
Dang,
did.
buddy.
But
Pearl Harbor, let's go to McDonald's.
he's looking at some deals, and he's like, what do you know about Irving, Texas? Well, I own 2 properties in Irving, Texas, right? It's just kind of cool. It's kind of cool.
We can't get past McDonald's.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
You know what they call a quarter pounder in Europe? Royale with cheese. Check out the big brains on the back. Hey, next
Sorry.
question. Yeah.
Do we have any online questions? Yes. Okay.
Oh, we do.
Let's
we
take
have a
one.
bunch.
We'll take several, but let's get an online. We have
Is-
several in the room.
Cindy is asking if Pam is on podium.
Pam, are you on podium?
I'm on podium.
So Podium is a platform that operating partners can use to connect with passive partners, ease of delivery of documents, monthly reports, that kind of thing. So it's an easy way to connect, and yes, she is. Great. Another question? Yes, ma'am.
How many deals are you managing at this point?
How many deals are you managing currently?
Just 2. So there's the 85 unit, and then there's a 20 unit that's 8 miles away. And because it's so close, we're able to do cost sharing.
But this one that you have was like 4 at a time whenever you were first starting. The South Cross, it was.
This is my 4th deal, but 2 of them have been sold.
More questions?
Yes, Catherine is asking, how many staff does Pam have on payroll?
Excellent. So you mentioned that 2 are close by, so talk to that too. How many staff do you have on payroll? Owen?
Sure, we have one property manager, and she manages the 85 units plus the 20 units. That's 8 miles away. We have one lead maintenance, and he does the same thing. And then we have one guy who floats around, but he's not on payroll. He's a 1099, so his hours are kind of all over the place.
So 3?
3.
Excellent. Yes, sir.
In the first 2 years, when there was negative cash flow, where was that money coming from?
Good question. First 2 years, negative cash flow, where was the money coming from?
That's an awesome question. So we anticipated, I think it was 6 or 7 months of negative carry, and that's exactly what we had. So we knew in advance because we run all the numbers, we look at the comps, we know what expenses are, and then we project into the future with this handy dandy MFQA spreadsheet
Multifamily
tool.
quick analysis. It's a tool we have at Lifestyles.
And in this case, it was spot on.
So
And
what Pam did, anticipating that the income on the property was so low because the occupancy was low, she raised 6 or 8 months of expenses as initial capital, money put into the deal, right, amongst the partnership, everybody, you know. So
So she had
That's
that
just
in a reserve.
money that was in a reserve account to pay the expenses till they got in the black. That's something you have to do on a deep value play. And a deep value play is not for a first-time investor, okay? That's usually only an experienced person. Good question.
As a lead or just as a passive?
Oh, as a lead, a deep value play is not your first deal.
You can, yeah, as a passive,
Go
there's
ahead.
no limit.
What is a recourse loan?
Great question. What is a recourse loan?
A recourse loan is like a house loan. So if you have an agency loan, that's the cream of the crop kind of loan that everybody strives for, and it has to do with who's accountable. So with an agency loan, if I were to default on it, which I never would, they would not, I believe, not be able to
Yeah.
come after me
Yeah.
personally.
As long as you didn't do a bad boy covenant.
Right.
Right,
The property
without a bad
itself,
boy carve-out.
the property itself would stand for the loan, but
Yeah.
Pam, she took on the responsibility so that loan, she's responsible for it. So
So-
a recourse loan, she's responsible for it. A non-recourse or agency type debt, the property, if something happens, you hand over the keys and the property stands for the loan.
And I cover this in detail this week, and also a recourse loan, the bank financing you got. She signed a personal guarantee. She put her personal assets on the line. The limited partners in the deal did not. She took that responsibility, right?
So if I screw it up, I'm living with my mother.
Yep. But she mentioned the option to refinance into an agency loan, and that removes those recourse provisions. So, because the business is now operating, it will stand for itself. It could pay its own loan payment. Before, the business wasn't operating, so she had to say, hey, I'll stand for the loan. Copy? And I discussed that in detail this weekend.
Yes, Bob?
Okay, so your long-term goal is purchase another property. Is it going to be a value play like this one?
The question is, will your next property be a deep, deep value play like this one? Pam, what do you think?
I think you know the answer to that, Bob.
Now, we don't advertise deals from the stage, right, if it's deal specific, but leads are always looking for our properties.
So what I'll say is during the process, I was like, I'm never doing this again. I'm never doing another deep value play. And it's like, I guess it's like having a baby, because now I'm like, yeah, maybe I'll do another one, because we're through the other side of it.
If the price is right, it's hard to pass up.
And if we did do another deep value play, we'd be so much better at it.
Yeah, excellent. Yes, sir. Jason, who's coming to the 2-day this weekend?
Two-part question, but on your renovation budget, your renovation, your handyman is not doing that work. That's a contractor that's doing that.
The question was, is your handyman doing the reno? He might in some circumstances.
Who's my
do it.
handyman? You
Yeah.
mean my
Are you saying-
employees?
Your maintenance man. Because she could hire a handyman or a subcontractor.
So the maintenance man had his plate full with water leaks and air conditioners and installing hot water heaters and doing plumbing and things like that. So he doesn't usually do make-readies or turns or renos, but he could. My 1099 guy is really good at renovations.
The contractor.
The contractor. So how we usually do it is we hire another contractor to do the painting, and that's a contract company that, they come, they charge us a certain amount to paint a unit, they get it done. Then we ourselves go in and do all the lighting and all the plumbing, and then we hire another company to come in and do the flooring. So there's multiple pieces, but we try and do as much as we can in-house.
Do you have an average of your reno cost per door?
Yeah.
It really depends on, they're all over the place, but if they need flooring and if they need appliances and then everything else except cabinets, we're probably looking around $6,000 on an apartment, maybe a little bit more.
So total rehab budget was $750. Divide that by 82. 85 doors. Yeah. So 750,000 divided by 85 doors is going to be 8,000 or 9,000 a door.
Right, except that we spent
That's the
an
budget.
extensive amount of money on the outside.
That's exterior and interior, though. But the total rehab budget was 8,000 to 9,000 a door. Good questions. What else we got? Come on.
Any more online?
Multimillionaires on stage waiting for you to ask them questions.
Okay, then.
Literally.
Okay, so let's
Thanks,
give
everybody.
everybody give Pam. So Pam, thank you so much for giving back.